How's it going, folks? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're testing out Elder Scrolls Oblivion, the remastered edition, which is now available. So essentially what they've done is they've remade the game using Unreal Engine 5. So this is going to be an interesting one to test out now on the 7900 XTX that I recently kind of side graded to. So we're at the 4K Ultra preset. Let me just show you. Here we go, running at 4K, and VSync is off, frame rate is uncapped, and yeah, you can see we're on the Ultra preset, which interestingly means that the Lumen software RT quality is low and the hardware RT is set to off. FSR is currently in use, balanced by default, and frame generation is off. So with all that in mind, let's see what we get in terms of frames. All right, so we've just escaped from the sewers. I always hated that part of the game. I always found it so boring and unnecessary. I just really wanted to get out here immediately. But never mind, we are getting roughly 60 FPS at 4K, which isn't terrible. What happens if we jump in some water? Yeah, sort of getting 1% lows, sort of down near 30-ish FPS. We do seem to be holding true at around 60, 70%. Obviously, it's going to change based on where you go in the game. I never really played this game properly when it first came out. I bought it and I kind of played it a bit and then I stopped playing it because I got bored, which is kind of the same thing that happened with Starfield. So I wonder whether I'm just fundamentally not really a Bethesda kind of guy, but I'm kind of tempted to give this another playthrough. Let me know if maybe we can do that on stream or something. That could be quite cool. I'm tempted to start streaming on this channel a little bit more just to zhuzh it up a little bit. So after a little walk around, wow, look at that view. Yeah, sort of looking back there, 70, somewhere between 60 and 70, isn't it? It seems to be the rule of thumb, roughly. What happens, though, if... I'm trying to benchmark! Okay, now, after we were so rudely interrupted, what happens if we were to lose the FSR and just go for, honest-to-goodness, 4K without any kind of upscaling? I've got a funny feeling it's not going to work out for us, but let's try anyway. Damn. Yeah, look at that, 40 FPS. That's not the greatest, is it? That's really not the greatest. We wouldn't really want to be playing like that. So quite clearly we're going to need some FSR, having just seen those frames we were getting. At the start when we came out of the sewers, we were in the balance mode. That's when we were getting sort of between 60 and 70 FPS. I'm curious to see what happens if we go to quality. Yeah, so it is a bit lower, isn't it, on quality? We're not getting that 60 FPS experience. So it would seem, it's obviously going to vary where you are in the game, but I feel like we're in a nice wide open area with lots to kind of look at here. But yeah, we're gonna need probably to go to balanced, I would say, at the very least at 4K to get above 60 FPS consistently. So let's switch back to that. Yeah, and there we are. We're back to the kind of 65, 66, 67-ish on the averages. You know, it does occasionally dip down sort of to 60 exactly or 59, but I'd say this is much, much better. Image quality at 4K isn't too bad either. I mean, I'd rather not have to use any of this upscaling tech, but, you know, it is what it is. All right, into performance mode we go now with FSR 3, and we are now sort of more into the 70s than we were the 60s, so we've gotten a little bit, but... I don't know. Not sure I'm loving the visual appearance of it, to be honest with you. I kind of feel like balanced. I would much rather that we could run quality, but that's not going to get us above 60. Balanced, I think, is probably going to be where we have to go with this card. I don't really like the way the performance is looking. Everything just looks not quite as good. There we go, back to balance now, and we're sort of just above 60. Now, the next thing I want to try is looking at the RT settings that are going on there, because if we hop into the graphics options, it's these two settings here that interest me, because we've got Lumen software RT quality currently set to low and hardware RT set to off. What happens if we turn RT to on? And it's defaulted to Lumen hardware RT lighting mode low. Okay. Yeah, okay, so we're nowhere near, are we? 50 FPS isn't really what we want, and that is with FSR 3 upscaling on balanced. Okay, I've increased it to medium, but weirdly, frames don't seem to have had a massive hit, particularly, although I must also not really seen and not visually going on either. Okay, going up to high now, and again, still in the 40s, aren't we? Which is kind of weird. What's going on with that water reflection? It's like the water is reflecting my sword. That is super weird. But only within the section where the mountain is also being reflected. What is going on there? That's weird. Okay, so I've just cranked it to Ultra again, and yeah, I don't know, sort of still in the 40s-ish, aren't we? But I did notice a dip there into the 30s, a bit lower. And I did feel like a very big dip just a few moments ago. I don't know, I was just thinking on the basis that we are below 60 FPS, I think for this card, for the 7900 XTX, if I was going to play through it on this card, I would just be turning it off. So let's do that. So we were playing earlier with the Lumen Software RT quality on low. That's where we were kind of getting our 60, 70-ish FPS that you can see now. Obviously, I haven't reset the averages, but you can see the the instant readout. What happens if we change that to high? Again, it doesn't seem to have a massive impact. Maybe we're just in the wrong environment for the game, because using the hardware RT and now the software Lumen RT doesn't seem to have made a huge difference. I mean, obviously enabling it did make a difference in the first place. The hardware stuff took us down to like 40 FPS, but then going from low to ultra, it didn't seem to make a difference. So maybe, I don't know, maybe if we got into a dungeon where there's like loads of lights and, like candle lights and flames and all that sort of stuff, maybe that's where it would then make a bigger difference. Okay, so I found another area of the game. We've got a little fire through that doorway there. We've got some of these like crystal things emitting light. So we're on the RT hardware setting with Lumen, and we're on the low preset with about 68 FPS at the moment. Medium takes us down to 59/60. High, we still remain at 59/60. And ultra, we remain at 60, now seeing 61. And again, if we use the software Lumen, we're now roughly at around 85, 86, 87 FPS on the low preset. Switching over to high, high sort of drops us down to more like 83, 84. So not a huge amount in it. So I don't know. I can just all I can do is give you guys the numbers, really. But it's weird that the hardware RT doesn't seem to make a lot of difference once you go beyond medium, high, ultra. So I don't know. If you want, I guess, just run on ultra. But I feel like in other areas of the game, there might come a point where that kind of thinking gets undone. But we've been outside with loads of water around the place, lots of reflections of the mountains. We've now come inside where there's like illuminated light sources. I don't know. All I can do is show you what I see. It's quite strange behavior indeed. And of course, this game does have time of day, and we've now switched to nighttime. We're on the ultra preset with the RT back to the software on low. You can see we're just getting around 60 FPS. Now, given the type of game this is, you could argue that frame generation could become a candidate. So, on like a story-based game, single-player game, such as this, such as Cyberpunk, such as Starfield, this is the kind of game where I'd consider running frame generation if you really wanted to, and we're getting above 60 FPS, so it feels like a good candidate for it. I kind of think sometimes people get a frame rate of 30 FPS and they think, oh good, I can use frame gen to get me to 60, then it's all sorted. It's like, well, no, it's not sorted, because all your inputs are still being sampled at 30 FPS, so it's still going to feel like 30 FPS, it just won't look it. So let's try some frame generation, getting roughly 60 FPS at the moment, sometimes a bit higher, 65 right now. Let's flick on frame gen and see what that gets us. And yeah, there you have it. It's pretty much doubling, isn't it? What we were getting pre-frame gen to now giving us frame gen. I'm on a 60 Hz TV recording this at the moment because it's the 4K monitor that I have. So I probably wouldn't be running frame gen because all these frames are going to go straight in the bin. But if I was going to play on my variable refresh monitor, I probably would. So if you're willing to give up a little bit of eye candy, you can drop down to the high preset, and you can see now, rather than sort of flirting with 60 or 70 FPS, we're now well into the 80s. So this is without any frame generation. This is with FSR on balanced mode. So you can have a nice experience if you're willing to drop a little bit. I mean, ultra kind of is always in the lands of diminishing returns, really, because it takes an awful lot more out of your system and doesn't give you a huge amount back in terms of visuals. There's a nice little fire thing going on there. Who's shooting me? Go away, I'm benchmarking. The 0.1% lows are a bit on the low side, though, and I am feeling that through the game. Just you kind of get those hitches, like the kind of, and you feel it, and it's not great. So let's just see what happens if we drop down to medium, shall we? Because we sort of had like 60, 70 with ultra. We've had sort of 80, 70, 80, 90 with high. Let's quickly jump down to medium. Medium, we're sort of 80s, 90s again, aren't we? Sort of getting closer to 100 FPS in cases. It depends where you are. Obviously, now we've moved away from that fire and there's less RT stuff going on. We're now sort of in the triple figures on the instant readout. So it's going to depend where you are in the game, but if you're willing to drop down the quality levels a bit, you can absolutely have a nice time with this game. I'm curious, now we're at medium, whether actually we need FSR. Yeah, okay, so now FSR is off in terms of its upscaling. We're on the medium preset, and we are just getting 60 FPS. Not always, though. We're still in the 50s. So even at 4K medium, without FSR upscaling, it seems that a 60 FPS experience is still kind of marginal. That's crazy, isn't it? Like, games are just getting so demanding. The more Unreal Engine 5 games as well that we get, it's just going to continue. So what if I come near this fire now? Yeah, look at that. 52, 51, or 52 still on the instant readout. All right, we're going to drop down to 1440p, go back to the Ultra preset. RT is still set to the software, and we're on the low preset, but no upscaling at the moment, crucially. So let's see what we get. Holy smoke. So even at 1440p Ultra with no upscaling, we still can't get 60 FPS out of this, can we? That's wild. That is absolutely... Well, we can now. We occasionally get 60 FPS, but we're not getting a stable 60 FPS. This game is going to rinse quite a lot of people's systems, I fancy. So what happens if we were to come around to this fire again? Obviously, we've sort of got 60 FPS at the moment, and wallop. Yeah, back down into the 50s. 1440p. 55 FPS. On a 7900 XTX. Never thought I'd hear myself say that. And then if we whack on the FSR into balance mode, we're up into the 80s. So, yeah, 1440p at Ultra, you're going to need it, aren't you? You're going to need some FSR. Dropping down to high gets us into the triple figures. That's still with the FSR upscaling on though, so keep that in mind. And if we turn off the FSR upscaling now, we are starting to get something that's kind of more acceptable, I would say. So this is the high preset, 1440p without any FSR upscaling. And look, we're getting 75 FPS in what is kind of the most demanding area of this little part of the map we're at. If we sort of wander around here where it's a bit easier on the system, we start to see 80, 90. I've got to be honest, I kind of feel like if I was going to play this, and I do mostly games like this on a 1440p high refresh rate monitor, I would probably be running like this. 1440p high, no upscaling. That's probably where I'm going to have to end up playing this game. Yeah, just to prove it to you, 1440p, high preset, no FSR, no frame generation. Lumen software RT is set to low. Could we go? Yeah, let's try the hardware RT. Start on low. Yeah, okay. So that's not looking good immediately, is it? Oh, that's a shame. I thought maybe we could get away with a bit of hardware RT, but it would seem not. Especially, let me guess, if we go around to find this fire again, it's probably going to hit the deck again, right? Yeah, 50, 55. Oh, it's not doing so bad, I suppose. Wouldn't it be nice to get above 60 though, wouldn't it? Yeah, and switching into Ultra, still in the 50s. So, yeah, I'm probably going to have to go for, if we come down, we're going to turn off the hardware RT. Go back to the software one. Maybe we can run it on high though. Yeah, so 74, 75. So that's another 20 FPS, isn't it, that we've got ourselves back there. So I guess if you don't want to have to use FSR upscaling, but you do want some RT, it's got to be the software one at 1440p high if you want to keep above 60 FPS fairly consistently. And now we're away from that fire. Look, things are looking much better. If we sort of look up here, 90 FPS, look down towards the little dock with the light, I guess things are going to be a little bit harder. Yeah, into the 70s again. Blimey, what a demanding game. I think this is probably the settings I'm going to play through with. 1440p high, bit of software RT. Use that at your discretion. I would rather do 1440p high than 1440p ultra with upscaling with FSR. Generally don't like upscaling if I can avoid it. Now, given I'll be playing on a 1440p high refresh rate monitor, I suppose we could enable frame generation. I think our base frame rate is high enough, although annoyingly, you can't turn it on unless you have the upscaling. Ah, you go, native AA, that's better. Yeah. Native AA frame generation, and now we're sort of getting 138, 140. I know they're fake frames, but you know, if you do want to feel that smoothness, you can experience that smoothness. Obviously, the game is still running under the hood at what we just saw in the 70s and the 80s, so your inputs are being sampled at 70, 80 frames a second. It's not like it's going to make you a better shot or anything, but it will just feel a little bit smoother. I think that's probably what I'm going to have to do. That's probably what I'm going to do. If I was running at 4K, I think I would probably just accept that 60 is where it's going to be. And I'd probably have to use some upscaling to get me there, probably on the high preset as well, just to give us a little bit more wiggle room, because Ultra, I feel like you're sort of pushing everything right to the limit. But I hope you found this interesting. Stay tuned. Let me know what cards you'd like to see it tested on next. I have a 3070 here. I have a 4080 Super, and I have an RX 580, but I wouldn't get your hopes up for that one. Blimey, that's going to get ripped to shreds, isn't it? Anyway, thank you very much for watching, folks. Leave a comment, leave a like, sub to the channel. We're trying to sort of grow this channel a little bit, and I'm not entirely sure how best to do it. Hence, we're experimenting with different content types, such as this. Let me know what you think. And until next time, I will see you in the next video. Take the very best care of yourselves. Cheers. Bye-bye.